Obviously, Dead Space contains graphic violence, including dismemberment, impalement, blood, gore, vomit, and death. And so does this video. Hell, the game even gives you a disclaimer about it. So if you can't handle that, now would be the time to go to your mommy and watch your Teletubbies. I'm not sure what is scarier though. Well, I'm glad you're still here. So does a game from 2 generations back really need to be remade? Really? My answer is typically no way. When I first played Dead Space on my PS3, I almost shit myself. No kidding. I was always waiting for the end of the level so that I could just let it be for the day. I guess it didn't help that I was playing at night and with headphones on. So now, with much better tech, 2 generations later, will I come out clean or get my skid marks? Again, after 16 bloody years of clean underwear. Anyway, Dead Space Remake was released 1.5 years ago for PC, PlayStation 5, and the Xbox series of consoles. Let's not put it off any longer and see if Motive Studio manages to scare the shit out of me, or if this IP should have been kept dead in space. Shall we? Story, world, and characters are first. Let's start with the story, and this is basically the same as in the 2008 original. You play as Isaac Clarke, an engineer. Okay, so if you think now that there will be a lot of puzzles because of that, well, think again, but more to that later. So you're with Kendra Daniels, a computer scientist, and Zach Hammond, the chief security officer. And yes, with 2 other guys, but don't even try to remember their names. It's not worth it, believe me. These are your standard Star Trek red shirts and they won't survive that long anyway. So, the Happy Bunch is on board the spaceship USG Callion heading to find the USG Ishimura, a mining ship belonging to the CEC, and for those of you that want to know, this is the Concordance Extraction Corporation. These ships are being sent out to space to crack open and harvest complete planets. In this case, Aegis 7. The Ishimura is their flagship and apparently has a problem with their comm. And as it is usual for your most valuable asset, they of course don't have a backup system. What were the engineers smoking? Anyway, it starts to make sense, right? Isaac, as an engineer, his mission is to fix the comm because there's no one bloody else on the flagship that could do that. Yeah, very convincing. But of course, to give the story a more personal and totally useless emotional touch, Isaac's girlfriend, Nicole, is on duty on the Ishimura. That's why he volunteered. Classic. During the intro scene, the 3 musketeers find the Ishimura, but the ship appears to be dead. In space. Get it? Of course, your useless pilot crashes the Callion in an attempt to land. Maybe that idiot should have played more Top Gun on the NES or should have chosen just another job. Whatever. It's time for Isaac to put his helmet on and get going. The story of Dead Space is split into 12 chapters, and if you don't want any spoilers, go to here. The story is brought forward by some rare occurring scripts and mainly logs. So Isaac finds the background info that Hammond had requested. It conveniently informs him about, well, himself. Great. So you're controlling an engineer with amnesia on a killing spree. Just great. Isaac was an extraordinary student with a broken family. His dad being off-world for long periods of time and his mom wasting all their money on a psychiatrist and on the Church of Unitology. More of a religious cult if you ask me. Both parents die. Their whole fortune and their bodies go into the possession of the church, and there you have our emotionally unstable hero. It is also mentioned that no info could be retrieved about Kendra Daniels. Very comforting. So the team consisting of a potential psychopathic engineer, a computer scientist without a background, and a by-the-book annoying security officer, they head out to the Ishimura. Yeah, with one of the red shirts, of course. Just to make sure that you don't forget where you are, the game places a huge banner of the Ishimura on top of the landing bay. So, Isaac is asked to check the status of the Ishimura and soon finds out that most of the ship is done for. Monsters appear and Mr. Redshirt finally dies. Lucky him. On Star Trek, he wouldn't have survived that long. Isaac tries to escape while monsters spawn like popcorn. But it wouldn't be much of a game if he dies, would it? Unfortunately, Kendra and annoying Hammond survive as well, but they get split from Isaac. Survival horror. Classic.
What the are these things?
The ones I saw, some of them were wearing Ishimura uniforms.
They're the crew? How the hell can they be the crew? Look at them.
So something terrible happened and transformed the crew into monsters. The stage is set. The three decide to go to the bridge to search for survivors, but the ship is in lockdown mode. And the tram is wrecked. Well, look at that. What a coincidence that Isaac is an engineer, right? So it is up to him to get the tram back online. This means replacing the car and a data board. And this is unfortunately how a huge part of the story plays out. While the background story is sprinkled in here and there and is very, very tense, the actual story that Isaac experiences is more of a lame tourist tour throughout the ship while trying to repair stuff here and there. Anywho, so he replaces the broken car, finds a log about strange dreams on board and rushes back to install the board since Chicken Hammond sees a lot of activity on his M314.
Maintenance complete. Calling tram.
So, while Isaac was busy, Kendra actually did something and lifted the quarantine. Isaac can now go back to the hangar to fix up the Kellion with Redshirt number 2. While Hammond and Kendra, they can go to the bridge to find out, surprise, that there's no f***ing soul alive.
What have you got on you? Is that blood?
Stupid Redshirt does not realize the graphical feature that blood slowly fades away after a fight, but more to that later. Anyway, Isaac checks the damage report and finds out that also on the Kellion more is broken than working. Not that it matters, since immediately afterwards the ship is overrun by creatures, explodes and finally kills Redshirt number 2. Isaac reports back and is told that they will need the captain's access codes to make it out. But, like everyone else, the cap is dead and lying around in medical. And we wouldn't want it any other way. Isaac is the closest one to medical. Great. So our sightseeing tour through the Ishimura continues. Onwards to the morgue, on a broken, monster-infested ship.
What was that? Chen?
So it is clear now that these creatures are living dead.
Shit.
Exactly. Kendra gets separated. Isaac has to find a way to access the morgue, which is barricaded.
If they barricaded the morgue, maybe it was to keep something in.
So yeah, what a great idea to destroy the barricade. Very, very smart. On the way through medical, Isaac finds several logs showing doctors having their reservations about what's going on. Yeah, no shit. More and more of the crew are having nightmares, paranoias, and hallucinations. Isaac must feel right at home on board the Ishimura. So the doctors are treating the symptoms but can't find a solution. On the other hand, Dr. Mercer, the chief medical officer, is completely nuts.
It's remarkable to finally see what I've sought all my life.
He talks about transformation, divine death, calls the monsters necromorphs, and wants to study them. Meanwhile, Isaac finds some logs from his sweetheart, Dr. Nicole Brannon. She helps the crews and sees improvements, but Mercer continuously interferes. He brabbles about religious significance to the Church of Unitology and wants to analyze the transformations. So, Nicole Darling needs to first move to a secret room and later she moves down to engineering to continue to help people.
The dead tissue is absorbed, recombined, then reanimated.
So basically, the necromorphs are some kind of zombies.
It's all connected to the marker from Aegis 7, but how?
Great warning. Better for Isaac not to get too close to the planet. Well, wait and see. On another note, Dr. Terence Kyne confirms that they found a marker on Aegis 7. The first one since the black marker was found, which offered alien revelations beyond their wildest dreams. It also seems like most doctors and officers of the Ishimura are on the church's leash. The church has the black marker as their symbol and wants to secure this new marker at all costs. Back to cheerful Isaac. After returning with a canister of hydrazine and an electroshocker, he goes full MacGyver, builds a bomb and destroys the barricade. Very reassuring that on the way to the morgue, Isaac finds more reports from the colony. People losing their minds, killing each other. 40% of the colonists show symptoms.
People are dying down there. I know it's linked to the marker somehow, but I just don't have enough data.
So, while Isaac is busy getting the rig codes from Captain Matthias, that one undergoes a slight transformation. Oh well, just another enemy. Next problem.
The computer says the Ishimura's engines are offline.
The ship is falling onto the planet. Awesome. What a wonderful chance to continue our tour and explore engineering.
Can you handle it alone?
And I thought Isaac was the one being sarcastic.
Sure. Fix the centrifuge, get the fuel running, then do a full restart.
Anyway, since no engineer from the Ishimura was capable of surviving and fixing shit, it is up to our one-man show without personality to come down from his killing spree and get on with his job. In the meantime, lovely Kendra managed to survive and gets admin rights. Really? As a computer scientist, she didn't think about this earlier? Are you kidding me? Back in engineering, Isaac gets the centrifuge activated and finds out that some moron decided, despite all that happened on the colony, to get the marker on board. It is now in the cargo bay, which explains why the whole ship went bananas. Anyway, cheerful Isaac receives a call from his honey Nicole and reacts with an outburst of emotions.
Nicole? I'm here. Nicole! Damn it.
So after starting the engines and basically single-handedly saving the whole ship,
Isaac, you did it. The Ishimura's moving again.
Hammond does not want to lose Ishimura. And since he's too stupid to do anything about it, Isaac needs to go to the bridge to hold his hand and help him with the cannons against asteroids. Oh, did I forget to mention that the Ishimura is now flying through a debris field? So when you arrive, Hammond is so clever to launch a escape pod with wretched Necro-Chan inside. He's clearly not the sharpest knife in the box. An escape pod with a monster inside. Really? So, since Isaac needs to fight off the asteroids, but the cannons are, oh wonder, offline, they figure out that he first needs to rewire the junction boxes. On his way, Isaac finds out that there is more or less a fight between EarthGov and the Church of Unitology going on.
That's the symbol of the Church of Unitology.
And now it all starts to come together, even for our extraordinary student Isaac. Really, mankind is so doomed. So someone found the marker on Aegis 7 and the church wants it. The Church of Unitology is a huge business with members across all government and economic powers. Founded by Michael Altman 200 years ago, who disclosed the finding of an alien marker which then became the symbol and basis of the church. The marker is believed to contain the key to eternal life.
Power transferred from DS cannons.
Finally, this is the signal Isaac has been waiting for to continue his tour, this time with a little space stroll to recalibrate the cannons. Mission accomplished. Now that the ship is out of harm's way, Isaac can resume thinking about how to save his little spacesuit ass.
This is Senior Medical Officer Nicole Brennan.
Oh well, not yet. A transmission from medical. From Nicole. But wasn't he just in medical? So this must be a trick, right? Anyway, Isaac is going.
Shipwide transmission override. Isaac Clarke.
Just a trick.
Who would have thought? It was just a recording. Dr. Mercer is still alive, unfortunately for Isaac. He stuns him and starts his "I am evil" monologue. He wants to kill Isaac since he feels bothered by him touring the ship and would rather be left in peace to continue his studies on cellular regeneration of crewmen. For the good of the church, of course. A true role model. So he releases a necromorph that regenerates. Oh, I hate such. When a game throws a monster at you that you basically can't kill, it's so annoying. So Isaac goes all Judgment Day and gives the hunter the good old nitrogen skincare treatment.
Isaac, our air quality is falling fast. If you've got liquid nitrogen, we gotta fix hydroponics.
On it.
Yeah, great. By now Isaac almost single-handedly repaired the whole Ishimura. Really? What have the others been doing here? He was supposed to come and repair the comms. Just the comms.
To all survivors, turn back.
Oh, great. Apparently there's a huge leviathan growing in hydroponics, went all Borg and assimilated everyone. This is now the backstory for Isaac's most tedious job to date. He needs to first synthesize an enzyme.
The air. My team has destroyed everything. I designed a special enzyme to kill it. I just needed liquid nitrogen to complete the synthesis.
Well, look at that. What a coincidence that Isaac just killed the hunter with liquid nitrogen and has some left. And second, Isaac needs to weaken the Leviathan by administering the enzyme to every employee of hydroponics via a small injection that might tickle a tad. To every employee of hydroponics. Every single one of them. With this being out of the way, he can finally go all Iron Man in 0G and kill the Leviathan. Now that the air supply is secured, Isaac can go to the mining deck to retrieve and launch an SOS beacon and finally call for help. On Isaac's tour through mining, he finds out that Nicole is still alive. She of course helps him. She's a little bit weird though.
And make us whole again.
Uh-oh. They get separated and Sub-Zero Isaac cannot hold back his true love for her.
We got separated. She'll find her way back.
He is so caring. Anyway, Isaac places the SOS beacon on an asteroid and releases the whole thing.
Wait. Array receiver not responding.
Now who would have predicted that? But despite all disappointment,
A ship just shocked in. The USM Valor. They must have heard our SOS.
in order to reply, finally Isaac can pursue his initial task to fix the comm. Meanwhile, 00 Kendra calls.
And Isaac, watch what you say. I think someone's listening in.
After killing a second Leviathan, Isaac finds out that the Valor had taken a rescue pod on board. Wait, not just any rescue pod, no! The rescue pod that Airhead Hammond had released, with Redshirt Necrochan on board. So history repeats itself. A rescue ship crashes onto the Ishimura, and dear Isaac has to go on board the Valor to salvage a singularity core and install it on the executive shuttle of the Ishimura. At least that's the newest and greatest plan. On the Valor, he first has to defuse a nuke. Wow, he truly is a jack of all trades. And he also learns from Dr. Kyne that the marker has to be returned to Aegis 7 to let the planet rest and end this madness. Okay, Necrochan kills Hammond, Isaac gets a singularity core which leads to...
Warning, heat exchanger offline.
And we get a pretty cool escape sequence with everything exploding around Isaac. Next on Isaac's bucket list is to visit the crew deck with the tour highlight, the executive shuttle. And once again, Dr. Mercer proves that he's a complete lunatic. He brabbles about conversions and to be reunited with the people you love. And that the Ishimura is only the beginning. Soon afterwards, Isaac finds the marker which starts affecting his mind as soon as he gets closer. Before getting back to killing shit, let's take a moment to dive deeper into Isaac's past and get to know why he turned out the way he did. So the psychological treatment of Isaac's mom did not show the required success. Well,
She's dead, Nicole. They both are. She killed my dad, then herself.
only Nicole got fooled by her.
You said she was herself again. You said she would be better at home.
Oops. Well, Isaac, that's why you keep your job and family separated, really. Otherwise, shit like this happens. Isaac finally meets Dr. Terence Kyne, the one and only intelligent being on the Ishimura. He reveals that the hive mind controls these necromorphs telepathically. The marker needs to be returned to Aegis 7 to calm it down and stop the outbreak. So why not use the shuttle for that? On the way to the shuttle, Isaac has to kill another one of those hunters that has been with him for quite a while now. It is so satisfying to finally roast that son of a in the shuttle's engines, and it just looks so awesome. After that, Isaac couldn't just enter the shuttle, oh no. Dr. Mercer and Isaac get dragged around by no other than the blob itself. Well, at least that's the last you see of that Mercer bastard. The marker gets dragged to the cargo bay, so naturally that's Isaac's next destination. Big reveal. Kendra works for EarthGov and does not trust anyone. Whoa! So, the red marker was actually developed by human scientists on Aegis 7 a few hundred years ago. After they found the black one, which was alien, they tried to reverse engineer it and the red marker came to be. The experiment went terribly wrong and
They sealed off the whole system, buried the records nice and clean. Until CEC got greedy.
the mining corp woke up the nightmare once again, and here we are. And then Kendra escapes with the shuttle. But luckily Nicole helps Isaac once again. He remote controls the shuttle back, Kendra uses an escape pod before it arrives, and Isaac and Nicole leave happily together and go to Aegis 7 for the last chapter of the game. Isaac unloads the marker and moves it through the old research facility back to its original place. Kendra reappears and holds Nicole at gunpoint. Well, Nicole actually killed herself on the Ishimura way before Isaac arrived. The person he had been confusing this whole time with his sweetheart is Elizabeth Cross. Remember the scientist from hydroponics? Anyway, either the marker has been influencing Isaac throughout the whole game, or he is completely nuts. So at this point you are free to question whether anything that you have seen in the game was actually real.
Nicole's been dead this whole time. You just couldn't handle it, could you?
Kendra kills Cross? Why? Well, why not? Next on Death's list is Kendra. The hive mind squashes her like a pumpkin and it's time for the final boss. And man, I have to admit, this is my favorite final boss in any game I played so far. Not that bullshit to make the boss extra hard so you get frustrated, and unless you have the right tools or strategy you can't beat it. Oh no, not here. The hive mind is huge, impressive, but still quite easy to beat. It's like the developer saying, you reached here. You survived all the horrors we threw at you. Went through all the terrors on the Ishimura. Now this is your time. This boss is your reward for reaching the end. Enjoy this fight. You deserve it. And that's what this is. A really enjoyable final boss. A present from the developers for beating one of the most, if not the most, terrifying games out there. Anyway, you beat the boss and escape with the shuttle. The end. After this extensive story recap, let's talk about the world next. Set in 2508, where mankind has long depleted Earth's resources, time has come for some more drastic methods. The CEC operates mining ships which crack down entire planets and refine all its natural resources, from prospecting to completion in approximately 5 years. You have the CEC, which is a corporation, EarthGov, and the Church of Unitology, all with different agendas, but all intertwined since members of every faction are also part of the Church. The Church is completely f***ed up, and you get higher in rank the more you contribute to it, mainly money and property. Once you reach a certain level, your body will be granted a spot on one of their long-range expedition ships, which will launch in search for eternal life and to revive everyone. It is a very dark and dystopian future, and one that feels very realistic. Apart from this outer world, you have got the micro-world on board of the planet cracker Ishimura. This world not only offers a great and threatening atmosphere, but also delivers subtle jump scares that are, well, not in your face. How to explain? The game scares you when you notice something in the environment. Dead Space has a dense atmosphere, supported by a great physics model, even when absolutely nothing happens. The USG Ishimura is a huge ship. I mean, hell, it cracks entire planets. Therefore, it only makes sense that there is a tram as fast travel method. In the original game, it served as a level break. Here, there are no levels. It is just one giant, coherent world that the developers built, and the tram is just there to fast travel between the different parts of the ship. Although, you have to unlock every tram station manually first, so you will first have to go there on foot. As you notice, everything looks a little rusty and old and has strange sounds to it. It fits perfectly to the old Ishimura setting. There are also zero-G sections on the ship, basically for machines that cannot work under gravity. This influences the gameplay and you can live your Iron Man power fantasy. And zero-G also means that all objects float physically correct. For example, clips float after you emptied them. These little details contribute hugely to a great world building. There's also a good variety within the Ishimura's different sections with distinctive environments. Engineering is somewhat rusty. Mining has this robust and heavy-duty feel to it. The bridge looks high-tech amazing. The centrifuge wows you with its ginormous dimensions. The crew deck is just very intimidating. The growing blob in the engine room gives this organic vibe. Hydroponics provide a touch of green. And you even go out and experience spacewalks. The variety that the developers created is breathtaking at times. Also, to better understand the world, there are side missions that are completely optional. For example, on Dr. Mercer's experiments. Good thing is that you have a tracker that can be activated so you don't waste any time searching for any of the objectives. The reward for completing these missions is, for example, expansions to your equipment. Necessary? Not really. In my opinion, the real reward is to get a better understanding of the world and get sucked into the deep atmosphere of Dead Space. Let's talk a little bit about the characters. And here's where the game struggles most. Did I already mention that our Chief Security Officer, Zach Hammond, is not very bright?
And Isaac,
Yeah?
I'm sure Nicole's okay. She's a doctor, right? She'll do the smart thing.
So why exactly would a doctor have any chance of survival when all security personnel on board the Ishimura got slaughtered? Dumbass. Unfortunately, most characters are just headbangers. Their writing is so lame, and the delivery is without any emotion. Let's take our dear Isaac for example, our Sub-Zero hero. He comes across really disturbing scenes, like this doctor mutilating and killing herself. He's on a mining ship full of monsters where everything is broken and death awaits around every corner. But he stays calm. I tell you, any engineer would freak out. And this delivery in his voice is just what's missing here. Did the writers really think that swearing make characters more believable? In 2023, really? And on top of this, the voice acting is just not there. I mean, if you say f***, at least deliver it in a believable way for f***'s sake.
I worked with him for years.
And I'll just vent him out. No problem at all. Come on, guys. Give us some emotions here. But hey, not all is bad. The characters also have their impressive sides. The visual side. Like when you fight enemies up close or stomp them, your suit gets covered in blood, which just looks amazing. And when you hold the Ripper, the blade still turns and the whole thing shakes and cries that it wants another gory kill. But then again, the characters have just laughable one-liners.
I've never seen you at work. You're a surgeon with that thing.
All in all, Dead Space has a story that fits the purpose of traveling around the Ishimura. It has an excellent world and atmosphere building. One of the most intense backstories I've ever experienced in a game. I mean, if you walk around every corner slowly, shitting in your pants, well now that's a testimony. Unfortunately, the dialogue lines and their delivery are simply put, shit. Which drags the score for story, world and characters down to a 7.6 out of 10. On to game mechanics and controls. And the settings are first. Dead Space does not annoy you with useless settings, unless you want it, which is good. The settings you should definitely have a look at are, well, switching on and off subtitles. The difficulty. You can choose between medium, hard, which you take more damage and enemies less damage, and bloody impossible. No, really, they named the difficulty impossible. So they give you a special outfit and weapon if you dare to finish a game in this hardest setting, without autosaves and without dying. And of course only one save slot is available. But at this point that doesn't really matter. Why? Well, because if you dare to die once, that's it. You can continue in hard mode from that point on, but the impossible mode is over for you. I get nightmares only thinking about this mode. Ah yes, and then there's story and easy mode. These are here to include those friends of yours that don't play video games at all, but they always bitch when they feel being left out. Yeah, right, I guess that's a thing nowadays to have to include this bullshit. Graphics. This is set to performance mode by default. This is so you can't blame any stutters or something like that for dying. Well, if you don't agree, you can switch this mode off. But hey, then I don't think you should be playing this game anyway. Audio channels. Here's where you basically adjust your salary level. So whether you have to play in stereo, have a 3D audio system that simulates surround, Or you can shit money for breakfast and have a nice surround system set up at home. That's it. All other settings are for those playing on Impossible mode. So, not for me. There's one more setting when you start the game, the brightness. You want to make sure to adjust everything to barely visible to make it even more challenging when you go for that impossible run. I left it at 50. I mean, my heart wouldn't survive anything darker than this. And by the way, load times are freaking fast. Yeah, faster than getting a bloody sub. Okay, so much for the settings. So the main game consists of fighting off enemies and solving puzzles? Well, more like looking puzzles at the character's EQ, I guess. Anyway, let's look at the so-called puzzles. Pretty much at the beginning of the game, Isaac finds a stasis module. In style. He takes it off a dismembered arm of a fellow crewman. And by the blood on the door next to the scene, the guy or girl, can't really tell anymore, got sliced by it. I guess there are no safety regulations in the 26th century and every door is a potential death threat. Yeah, right. Anyway, the module lets you slow down time in a contained area to, for example, sneak through malfunctioning doors. It didn't help that stupid idiot. You can recharge it by either using an item or using a stasis recharge station, of which there are plenty. Mainly the puzzles are to operate switches. Yeah, not really an evolution of the genre, but they contribute extremely to the atmosphere of the game. And hey, that's what we're here for, right? For example, you switch off lights and use that power for doors that you need to open. I mean, at this point, with barely any lights anyway, does it make any difference? Oh yes, it does. But hang on, it gets worse. Sometimes you can decide whether you want to switch off life support, then basically you don't hear jack shit and have an oxygen timer running down, or whether you want to switch off the lights and not see a thing. Yeah, great choice. And then there is the Kinesis module, so yeah, they sprinkled in some Sokoban puzzles in here as well. Well, not even, I mean just really an unnecessary gimmick since it's just to move an object towards or away from you. More important than to clear paths, it is useful to draw objects towards you or to hold sharp objects and throw them at enemies. Which I suck at. But this leads us to fighting. Now, this was something fairly new in games and very fitting to our psychopath engineer Isaac. You don't go for headshots in this game. You cut off as many limbs of your enemies as possible. The game straightforward tells you that. It also tells you in an audio log.
Smith had to shoot its fucking arms and legs off, for God's sake!
Then in a tutorial to make sure you really got it. Then in an audio log, again. The developers really made sure that even those story players get it. But let's look at the weapons. The first one you find is actually a tool. Yeah, well, how fitting for an engineer, right? It is a plasma cutter. You can cut either horizontally or vertically. It is strangely satisfying to mutilate your enemies, and you will be using this weapon throughout the whole game. It never gets old. I got to admit that at the beginning of the game I felt a lot of anxiety since you have to switch the cutting direction while enemies approach, so you can accurately cut off their arms and legs, right? So sometimes, under pressure, well, I just fire the shit out of this weapon without switching. Then again, well, I'm not good for that impossible mode anyway. But hey, once you fully upgraded the plasma cutter, that thing shreds through enemies like butter. It feels great. And you could beat the game easily just using this weapon. The second weapon you find is the pulse rifle. The fellow crewman unfortunately dies in front of your eyes and, well, a weapon needs an owner, right? The primary fire is a machine gun which creates those little explosions. Looks super cool. but it is not very effective for enemies where you have to precisely cut off their limbs, so most of them? You have to aim way too precisely, and well, I'm one of those losers playing on console. So there, I said it. The secondary fire mode though is a grenade launcher. Standard stuff, but perfect that this is combined into one weapon. The next weapon is the Ripper, and my favorite in the game. It is just so relaxing. No need to carefully aim. Just hold the rotating blade in front of you, wiggle it around a little and make some fresh cuts. And when you upgrade this, it makes even more damage and the blades last longer. Never felt so calm in my life. The flamethrower. The primary fire is great against those small, annoying enemies. Otherwise, pretty useless unless upgraded. But the secondary fire creates this awesome firewall right in front of you. It not only burns and blocks enemies from reaching you, but it just looks so badass. The contact beam is an overpowered particle weapon. It annihilates groups of enemies in a short time. And better, the secondary fire mode releases a particle explosion. The weapon shreds through everything. My recommendation, upgrade this one and use it. The line gun though is a disappointing one. It is more or less a wider plasma cutter. I just prefer the original, I guess. But then you have the force gun. Holy shit. This one creates a shockwave that skins your enemies. It looks awesome, and as with all weapons, when you decide to upgrade this one, man, let me tell you, hell on earth. Apart from weapons, you can as well use red canisters that lie around everywhere. I mean, it's video game lore by now that when red canisters are thrown at enemies or shot at, they explode, right? But let's now talk a little bit about some of the enemies, since it wouldn't be fun to have weapons without enemies, right? So, you have the standard humanoids, for example. Then you have these annoying acid puking ones. Then there are these scorpion-like creatures, and let me tell you, these were so bothering until I got the Ripper. Just because they move so fast and along walls, along the ground, along everywhere. Here are some tentacle enemies that shoot some shit at you. I guess these were pets of the crewmen or something like that. Anyway, cut off their tentacles and they die. The bats. Always kill these first. They have the annoying ability to suck life into any body, and therefore they just wander from body to body, creating more and more monsters. So kill the bats first to avoid more enemies spawning. And more tentacle guys, this time hanging on the walls. Cut off their tentacles as soon as you can, otherwise they will start puking out those spores that will start shooting at you. Or better, just use a flamethrower to incinerate them. And of course you've got kamikaze enemies. But these ones are actually not annoying at all. They are really useful when they appear close to other enemies, since shooting at their sack makes them explode. Or you can just mutilate them, so they die and use their sack similar to a red canister. It's pretty awesome. Finally, you have got the super fast stasis soldiers. The effect when they move is bloody brilliant. And when you shoot at their stasis module and it explodes, man, that's when you have all the time in the world to finish them off. Let's check some useful survival mechanics next. Always stomp to open item crates, or throw them via your kinesis module. Food stomp killed enemies to get some loot. Like a piñata, you know? The stomp also frees you in case an enemy has you cornered. stomp the dead just to make sure that bats can't revive them. So basically, stomp, stomp, and stomp. Throw explosives. Because as I said, everyone knows that canisters explode as soon as you throw them. It's a little bit stupid to have them lying around on a spaceship, I mean, with no atmosphere outside and all. But hey, whatever. And there is always an enemy spawning behind you when one spawns in front of you. So every now and then, do yourself a favor and look behind. Okay, let's look at the in-game interfaces, shall we? At the press of a button, you can show the current objective, as well as where you have to go. And the camera turns to that direction as well. Saving the game is only possible at save stations. It breaks the immersion a little bit, but then again, if you're complaining about such, well, just play in the impossible mode where it only makes sense to save anyway when you need to go take a shit. Since otherwise it doesn't matter, you die, you're done. For the rest of us, hey, you can save as many times as you want, and when you exit the game, it shows you even how much time has passed since your last save. The game never stops, unless you pause it. This means that you are never safe while navigating menus or checking the map. And you have to manage all kinds of pickups while the game continues. Health pickups, conductors, ammo for different weapons, credits, nodes, and so on. I mean, hell, it almost never stops even during cinematics. This helps extremely since it does not break the immersion and always leaves you with a feeling of vulnerability. As I mentioned before, you better upgrade those weapons. And your suit as well. All item boxes have a light so that you don't miss them. So there's barely anything working on this ship. But those little lights, they always work. Always. You can invest the nodes that you find in weapon and suit upgrades for increased health, damage, ammo capacity, reload speed, special bonuses, and so on and so forth. At your local store, you can storage items, sell and buy items for credits, and buy a new suit. This increases your armor and adds inventory slots, and believe me, you will need them. And let's be honest, this is the best upgrade animation that any game has ever made. It feels scary, but so awesome at the same time. You also find schematics which you can bring to the store, and from then on it can produce the items for you. For credits, of course. Schematics are typically for ammo or special weapon upgrades. Okay, so how does Dead Space control? So the whole game is like filmed in one take. And there are not many cutscenes. Mostly the story is brought forward through holograms or logs. And you are free to move around while these play out. Otherwise, the controls are what you would expect from a modern third-person shooter. Without a cover mechanic though. The camera can be a little bit annoying when in close quarters. And the zero-G controls, they are just amazing. I mean, they make you feel like Iron Man. So, all in all, the mechanics are very solid for what the game actually wants to be. And the controls are fitting, though a bit overloaded on a controller, which made me accidentally trigger the one or other health pack or stasis recharge. With that, I give gameplay an 8.6 out of 10. On to presentation, and visuals are first. 2 words. No interface. Everything is integrated into the game, either displayed on Isaac's suit, like the health status, or via holograms projected by Isaac's helmet directly in his face. The vertical bar on his suit shows the health. The round indicator is for stasis charges. Ammo indicators are projected by the weapons themselves. This all creates a huge immersion. And the visuals are some of the very best I've ever seen in a game. They create a dense atmosphere with great effects. Especially since the Ishimura is a wreck, light and shadows, they play a major role. Also the fog feels so just right. One example is when you enter a room and the lights slowly turn on one by one. This scene gave me Alien vibes. And all light sources seem to shine correctly and create accurate shadows. The visuals are sometimes just breathtaking. And it seems like the developers took some more sci-fi references. And believe me, I mean this in a positive way. For example, these green tubes, they most definitely give me Alien Resurrection vibes. And then there are the Ishimura uniforms. Man, Battlestar Galactica reimagined. Right here. The developers show some amazing attention to detail. Flesh separates from bones first, before you continue firing and break the bones themselves. The blood splatter on the suit, which I mentioned earlier. Holograms flicker when these play back scenes in large rooms and the holo emitter changes. Logs and video calls displayed right in front of Isaac's face. And no cuts from the beginning to the end of the game. Everything in one single take. Visually, this game is an amazing achievement. But there are also some negatives. Some character models are just terrifying. And not because of the gore or anything, but the character models look like they've been imported straight from a bloody PS2 game with no physics at all. This is of course mostly not noticeable because, well, which idiot takes the time to look at such details when necromorphs could be lurking around every corner? Then the weapon pickups. This is sloppy. Weapons kind of appear and then Isaac looks at them. I mean, instead of actually picking them up like it was done, for example, in Doom 2016. And of course some minor technical glitches. Blood acting physically incorrect. Canisters falling through the floor. Funny physics happening. Getting stuck on the level geometry, forcing you to restart from your last save. But let's be honest, these glitches are far and few between. Both the visuals and the technology are simply excellent. Let's check the sound.
Isaac, try that security console.
They could have given some characters more lines. They repeat stuff all over when you just want to patiently read a document. Well, Brainless Hammett is annoying anyway, so no harm done. And luckily, this cannot happen very often, since you spend most of your time alone. More of a reason, though, to have given that idiot of a security officer just...
Isaac, try that security console.
One more line, maybe. You will also find some nice sci-fi-ish sound effects. And of course, great environmental sounds that help immerse you into the game. And sometimes even the bloody elevator sound made me turn around looking for an enemy. Regarding the atmosphere, there are sections where you walk or fly outside the ship, where there is no atmosphere. Not only the colors become bland due to the bright unfiltered sunlight, but also the sound almost disappears. You only hear the sound from gear which is connected to your suit so that the sound can actually be transmitted to the helmet. It's a great effect, which obviously has the problem that you can't hear any enemies approaching. And there are also sound distortions when you speak over the comm.
Okay, I can seal the nest, but I haven't been able to reach Hammond since he went to the crew deck.
The weapon sounds are very fulfilling. For example, take the Ripper Blade. When hitting different surfaces, you can hear it. Lastly, there is a storm. Just brutal. So the sound is really great, but what about the music? The music sounds very threatening. Even when nothing happens, this makes you get lunatic and stomp the corpus to pieces. Sometimes it gets psychedelic, but always keeps up the tension. Listen to this. I mean, what the hell is this supposed to be? This is disturbing. So, in summary, the visuals are breathtaking with great sound and music design. There are almost no glitches and the presentation gets a 9.3 out of 10. On to the overall score. The story itself, so basically what you guide Isaac through, is average. However, it serves the purpose of exploring the Ishimura. The backstory and the world are simply put excellent. Unfortunately, the writing and delivery of the characters is pretty lame. The gameplay is what you would expect of a good third-person shooter, and the presentation is just outstanding. I mean, look at this random screenshot. This is the stuff of which desktop backgrounds are made. And it is just a random screenshot. So, overall, Dead Space 2023 gets a score of 8.5 out of 10. It is a pity. If it weren't for the characters, the score would have been easily a 9. So in summary, Dead Space is the new standard in horror games. Buy, play, shit in your pants. On to final thoughts. There were some annoying sections, especially my deaths by centrifuge. This section is actually not particularly difficult or anything. I just couldn't get the timing right. So this is of course on me. But what I noticed is that the first 2 to 3 chapters were the most intense ones. Afterwards, you have more weapons. You start to upgrade these, and there are more enemies with the one or other arena fight. So, the more the game progresses, the less scary and more action-focused it gets. But don't get me wrong, it is still scary as hell. However, the developers could have trimmed some sections down a little. The enzyme section and the power routing section for the cannons could have been shorter. Also, the SOS beacon section. I mean, to send it out, you have to go through all floors of mining, unlocking doors and so on. Then you find it after like an hour or longer. And after all that, you return to the command center, just to find out that the launcher is broken. So you have to manually launch it and complete another 4 tasks. It just drags way too long. But hey, after those sections, the background story picks up again and the atmosphere goes constantly up until the very end. And also, I have to say that some of this dragging is due to my playstyle. If you go in all Rambo, which you can certainly do on medium, you can finish the game much faster without any feeling of sections dragging. With my shit in my pants approach, it took me like 21 hours to finish the game. Yeah, I know, embarrassing. In terms of replayability, I have good news for you. There is a New Game Plus mode. I'll try that on my next playthrough and man, with souped up weapons going all Rambo style, yeah. Alright, this was my review of Dead Space 2023. Thanks for sticking around till the end, and hey, if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you on the next kick-ass review.